Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope your weekend went well. Your NFL DFS Sunday was profitable, which is a good thing. And unless your teams are foes of the Green Bay Packers, I hope your NFL team won. Baseball is over, except for the fact we got playoff baseball starting this week. My Brewers taking on the Cubs at noon today. We got Rockies and Dodgers playing in the afternoon. Another great day of sports coming up. But let's spend just a couple of minutes going through the cash lineup review from yesterday. We'll make this one quick. Honestly, rode the hell out of the chalk, so there's not a ton to go over because when you ride the chalk, everybody kind of knows what you're doing. All right. So let's get it started. All right. So as I mentioned, this was another week of chalk explosion. Chalk went off very similar to week one of this year, where the chalk just was absolutely in beast mode. You saw some really, really, really high scores all over the place. It took a buttload of points to cash this week, and that's a tough pill to swallow for GPP players. I know, like, that's something that Matt hates because Matt likes to go contrarian and he likes to play GPPs and be a little bit different. When the chalk goes off, it just kind of sucks for GPP players. I saw a bunch of people posting on this on Twitter and Instagram yesterday, kind of, coming to, I don't even want to call it a realization, but being like, I just had to swallow it and just, ride chalk this week, and the chalk went off, and I'm glad I did. Weeks 1 and 4 of this year, these are a little bit nuts. These are definitely the extreme side of the example. I don't think you can start evaluating players based on 4 times their salary being what you're looking for. Maybe quarterbacks a little bit, but not so much in running backs. And we'll get into like Alvin Kamara and some of the guys in just a little bit. And I don't think you can look at a guy who's 8K and think you need 32 out of him. Some weeks it'll work out that way, but you can't start evaluating that way based off of 1 or 2 weeks, weeks 1 and 4 this year. Because if you go back to last year, cash lineups were more like 145, 150, similar to weeks 2 and 3 of this year. And hell, if you go back a couple of years, they were closer to 100. I know that's obviously some different pricing from DraftKings. It's also probably a slight bit, but a bright product of the NFL being so hands-off, capable of the defensive players, and the offense is rolling a little bit more. But weeks 1 and 4 have been nuts so far. So again, if you happen to be new to the station, guys, go ahead, press subscribe. We talk a ton of DFS over here, and anybody willing to give the thumbs up is always appreciated. If you want to join the DFS 5-pack team, guys, we've got a million different options for you. It's all on the website down there in the description section. We cover cash, GPP, baseball, basketball, football. Love to have you. And all of the packages outside of NFL only cover all 3 sports. Again, want to say thank you. A lot of our customers do a great job of giving us shout outs when it's all done. So congratulations to Shane for being 4-0 on the year. That's awesome, Shane. Brad, same thing. Kind of following the right up. Just go after it. Way to go get it. 4-0 this year. Way to put all the finishing touches on it. Kevin C., again, awesome choices, man. He's mentioning he likes the 5-pack member-only videos, if that's something you've been interested in. Great. Caleb with his highest scoring week. Way to go after it, man. And Andy Smith, I wanted to give him a quick shout-out because this is my very first ever customer. We're going back many, many years into the past now. Congratulations to Andy. The evolution of you turning yourself into a guy who didn't play much fantasy sports into somebody who can do all this on their own now if they chose to has been a lot of fun to watch. So let's get into the cash line this week. And the cash line was right about 200. I scored about 214, give or take. A couple of small things I would do over again, but relatively minor. Starting off with the quarterback position, really the only choices between me were Andy Dalton, Deshaun Watson. Andy Dalton was just so much easier to finish off the roster, knowing I wanted to roster high 3-price running backs. So going with Andy Dalton against the Falcons was a pretty obvious move, and that's why 57% of people did it in the $100 single entry double up. I don't think we need to get into a lot of detail about why it was so obvious, but I think most of you guys understand there's a reason. Anytime a guy's over 50% owned, you can tell that it makes a lot of sense. Next up, the big dilemma for me for the week was there was 5 running backs I liked a lot. And to quote Matt, you can't roster everybody. I liked Zeke, Gordon, Saquon, Gio, and Kamara. I was pretty sure Gio and Kamara were going to be the most popular. They were. I like the other guys a little bit better. All of them, with the exception of Barkley, who wasn't even terrible, had good weeks. So it made for a real nice player pool. I started with Melvin Gordon. I thought he was my favorite overall running back play of the week. He was great. nothing special based on where the cash lines were yesterday, but he was excellent. And then I kind of had to make my choices. In hindsight, Kamara and Gio would have been a little bit better. Basically, they just scored more touchdowns. Everybody was effective, which made it a nice option when everybody kind of does their job. Even Barkley, who wasn't great, he wasn't awful. The Giants' offense was just stagnant. He didn't get enough touches. But then we moved down to the wide receiver position and did a small player pool this week. Geronimo Allison, Tyler Boyd, Sterling Shepard, Calvin Ridley. I slightly preferred Calvin Ridley over Geronimo Allison, but the $200 made a difference this week. I left $100 on the table. And by going with Geronimo over Calvin Ridley, it allowed us to get Eric Ebron in the tight end position. Ebron was chalk again this week. Still wasn't great, but caught a touchdown. So, the 15 points is solid based off that. I did prefer Trey Burton, but you can't get everybody into your lineup. And Trey Burton just didn't quite fit. And there was no way I was going to pay down from the Bears defense. The Bears defense was even more popular than I expected them to be. You knew they were way too cheap, and they're obviously, if not the best, one of the best defenses in the week. So it was no surprise to see them this high. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. I'll get into why that was. So as you can see, there's nothing really overly special right here. This was riding chalk all the way across. The score would have been a few points higher if I'd gone with Kamara and Gio and rode in real chalk as opposed to going with Saquon and whatever combination you went with him. But ultimately, everybody did their jobs. It's great when everybody does their jobs. It's not going to get you to the mountaintop because, as you can see, these guys were all pretty obviously and highly owned. And I think the important thing to note about Sterling Shepard right here is this New Orleans defense. Even though the Giants were pretty stagnant at offense yesterday, they continue to give up big-time secondary points to the non-number one wide receivers. And now it's Sterling Shepard this week. It was Calvin Ridley last week. They gave up the big bomb to Antonio Callaway the week before. Deshaun Jackson and Chris Godwin off week one. Continue to target the secondary wide receivers within the who are going up against the New Orleans Saints. So just to recap real quick, chalk went off. Cash lines unusually high weeks 1 through 4. Again, or 1 and 4. Just of note, I don't think you need to continue to evaluate guys based on a cash line of around 200. But when all of the chalk goes off like this, that's why it's so high. So I wrestled with the Kamara decision all week long, and I didn't like him as much as some other people. I was curious to watch how the Saints played outdoors. They're pretty good. And to be honest with you, when he hit that long run at the end, he was super expensive. And actually, I said before, he's going to need 35 points to make you regret fading him. He actually needed 40 to make you regret it. And he did it. When he capped it off with that late run, I was smirking and not in a good way because I had obviously not gone in that direction. And when you end up being just a little bit wrong, you just can kind of smirk about it. And I love Alvin Kamara. He's awesome. I don't mind him making me feel like I made the wrong choice because I just think the guy's an absolute stud. You saw the tight end position. So I mentioned Trey Burton in public last week, and ultimately I would have preferred to go with Trey Burton. We oftentimes like to play who we talk about, and I just thought Trey Burton was a little bit better of a play. I just couldn't swing it. Ebron allowed me to get the other guys that I want, but ultimately I preferred Trey Burton. I just couldn't get him into my lineup. I didn't have the money. And I do want to just kind of give a shout out to the DFS public. If you go back a couple of years ago, the DFS public is so much smarter now. And it's probably because there's 8 million people out there like me who talk about it and give people a real good education of what's going on just the players themselves are just much, much smarter. Because years back, I don't think the Bears defense would have been so popular going up against one of the top team offenses. But now I think people are capable of seeing it was a little bit fraudulent in how good the Bears were. Or a little bit fraudulent how good the Bucs were, and the Bears defense is just so solid. More notes. I think this is going to be last week for right now of Kamara being big-time chalk. We got Mark Ingram coming back next week, so that is worth noting. I think we kind of have to watch how the Saints use him week 1, but there's no way that Kamara is likely going to be worth the money right now with him having to lose some carries. For example, if Mark Ingram is in that game yesterday, Kamara might lose 20 points based off of 2 touchdowns and the potential of not having the ball in his hand at the end when they're trying to run the clock out. Mark Ingram's the guy more likely to be in there pounding it through the tackles. More other things to note. So if you've been curious about what you get as a member of the DFS 5-pack, for our cash lineup yesterday, it's a version of hard recommends and then a player pool. So we started with Melvin Gordon, said he was our number 1 guy for cash games. He was fine. Nothing special based on yesterday's scores, but he was fine. Then we went into the running back player pool and said that you're going to want to go with 2 of the 4. We listed Kamara, Barkley, Zeke, and Gio. Pick your 2 favorite. They're all in good spots. They were all fine, with the exception of Barkley, who wasn't even terrible. You pick whatever 2 that you like, because we said you almost got to play one of these guys in the flex spot. Next, under quarterback options, I listed Andy Dalton or Deshaun Watson. I said either guy is fine to go with. They were both good, so that worked out. And then moving into the receivers, we said Tyler Boyd was the guy I hard recommended, and then said pick 2 of the 3 out of Shepard, Ridley, and Geronimo once Randall Cobb was ruled out. I would have preferred Ridley, but I couldn't afford him, so I went Geronimo. Geronimo left the game a little bit early, but he was okay based on his price. And then at the tight end position, I said Trey Burton or Eric Ebron. I went Ebron because of the money situation. Both guys were fine. Nothing groundbreaking or anything like that, but fine. And then for defense, I said, I'm going Bears because I need the money. Otherwise, Jags or Seahawks are fine too. So as you can kind of see, you get a shorter list of a player pool. That way we have some lineup variance. It's not everybody doing the exact same thing. And a lot of our customers will go out and own on a couple of their picks anyway. So that's what we have today, guys. As I said, not a ton to review on a cash lineup like this because we just rode chalk real hard. And it's a lot of the same plays you guys probably use. So don't need to get overly descriptive on it. I'll be putting out a bunch of videos for the rest of the day. We got some MLB to talk over. We got a showdown tonight for NFL. Either way, thanks for watching and see you guys in a little bit.